The gunshot echoed across the dusty plains of Willow Creek, Montana Territory, 1879. But it wasn't the sound that made Eleanor Summers flinch, it was the laughter that followed. The men at the land auction howled as the auctioneer apologized for his accidental discharge, a thinly veiled warning to the 35-year-old spinster who dared bid on the old Hanson homestead. "My apologies, Miss Summers," the auctioneer called out, tipping his hat with mock courtesy. "Seems my finger slipped. Now where were we? Ah yes, the Hanson property, 40 acres with a standing structure. Current bid is $15 from Miss Summers." He paused, scanning the crowd of men. "Though I reckon a woman alone might find such a property challenging." Eleanor stood straighter, clutching her reticule containing her life savings. 6 years of working as the town's seamstress had yielded enough for this dream a place of her own, away from the pitying glances and whispered comments. At 35, unmarried and childless, the town had long ago decided her worth. $20, called out Bernard Whitley, the banker's son who had been trying to consolidate the surrounding lands. His smug smile made Eleanor's stomach turn. 25, Eleanor countered, her voice steady despite the murmurs that rippled through the crowd. The auctioneer's eyebrows shot up. 25 from the lady. Though I must say, Miss Summers, at your age, wouldn't you be better off securing a room at the boarding house? Homesteading is for families for the future. The future I choose for myself, Eleanor replied, refusing to drop her gaze. Bernard stepped forward. $30, and that's charitable. She'll be back in town within a month, begging for help or a husband, whichever she can get first. More laughter. Eleanor felt her cheeks burn but kept her chin high. $35, she said, knowing it was nearly everything she had. Before Bernard could counter, a deep voice cut through the crowd. $50, and the property goes to the lady. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, revealing a tall figure on horseback. The stranger dismounted with the easy grace of a man accustomed to life in the saddle. Dust clung to his denim pants and cotton shirt, and a weathered Stetson shadowed eyes that Eleanor couldn't quite make out from a distance. He moved toward the auctioneer with purposeful strides. "Nathan Evans," he introduced himself, extending a hand to the startled auctioneer. "Passing through and find myself interested in seeing fair business conducted." Bernard sputtered. "Now see here, I see just fine," Nathan interrupted, his voice level but carrying an unmistakable edge. "The lady bid 35. I'm offering 50 on her behalf as a loan to be determined between us later." He turned to Eleanor, tipping his hat. "If that's agreeable to you, madam." Eleanor studied the stranger. He stood a head taller than most men present, with broad shoulders and calloused hands that spoke of honest work. His face, partly shadowed by his hat, revealed a strong jaw dusted with a few days' worth of beard. But it was his eyes that held her clear blue and direct, showing no trace of mockery or pity. She should refuse. She didn't know this man, and debts led to dependence. Yet something in those eyes made her hesitate. "Why would you do that?" she asked, not caring that the entire town was watching this exchange. A small smile touched his lips. "Because I recognize determination when I see it, madam, and this town seems short on fairness today." Eleanor considered her options. With Bernard and his father against her, the auction would only grow more hostile. This stranger offered a way forward, even if it meant owing a debt. "I accept your assistance, Mr. Evans," she finally said, "though I insist on proper terms for repayment." Nathan nodded, then turned back to the auctioneer. "I believe we have a sale at $50. The auctioneer looked to Bernard, who gave a curt nod of withdrawal. "Sold to Miss Summers," he announced, with considerably less enthusiasm than before. As the crowd dispersed, Eleanor approached Nathan. "I can repay 35 immediately. For the remaining 15, I'll need time." Nathan shook his head. "No rush, Miss Summers. I'll be working at the Carson Ranch for the season. We can discuss terms once you're settled." Eleanor extended her hand formally. "I don't accept charity, Mr. Evans." "Nor am I offering any," he replied, taking her hand briefly. His touch was warm and solid. "I'm offering fairness, which seems in short supply around here." That evening, Eleanor sat on the porch of what was now her home, a small, weather-beaten cabin needing considerable work. The roof leaked in 3 places, the windows were drafty, and the floor had warped from years of neglect. But it was hers. As twilight settled over the land, she noticed a rider approaching. Nathan Evans dismounted at a respectful distance and waited for her acknowledgement before coming closer. "I brought some supplies," he said, gesturing to his saddlebags. "Just basics: nails, a hammer, some patches for the roof." He looked up at the darkening sky. "Storm's coming in a few days, that roof won't hold." Eleanor stood. "You've done enough already, Mr. Evans." "Nathan," he corrected gently, "and I haven't done anything yet. This is just neighborly." "We're not neighbors," Eleanor pointed out. "You said you're working at the Carson place. That's 10 miles west." A smile touched his lips. "Out here, that's practically next door." Despite her reservations, Eleanor found herself accepting his help and the supplies. As they worked together to patch the most immediate leaks, she learned that Nathan had been drifting for 3 years since the end of a cattle drive from Texas. He'd worked ranches across 4 territories, never staying in one place long. "What brings you to Montana?" she asked as she handed him nails. Nathan paused, hammer in mid-air. "Honest work and open skies," he said after a moment. "Not much more a man needs." "Most would say a home and family," Eleanor replied, immediately regretting bringing up the subject that had been used against her so often. Nathan resumed hammering. "Some men aren't meant for settling. And some women are told they've missed their chance," Eleanor said quietly. Their eyes met in the lantern light, a moment of recognition passing between them, 2 people who didn't fit the neat expectations of society. The next morning, Eleanor woke to find a stack of cut firewood by her door and fresh tracks leading away from her property. No note, no request for thanks, just help freely given. Over the following weeks, Eleanor worked from dawn until dusk. She cleaned, repaired, planted a small garden, and set up her sewing area by the largest window. Occasionally, she'd find evidence of Nathan's presence: a repaired fence, more firewood, a mended gate. Each time, she'd leave something in return: fresh bread, mended shirts, a jar of preserves. They rarely spoke about this exchange, but it continued through the changing seasons. Summer turned the prairie golden, and Eleanor's small garden flourished under her careful attention. The town's attitude toward her gradually shifted from open mockery to grudging respect. She still received sewing work, though now customers had to travel to her homestead instead of visiting her rented room in town. One sweltering afternoon in late July, Eleanor was startled by urgent knocking at her door. She opened it to find Nathan, his expression grave. "Miss Summers, I need your help," he said without preamble. "There's a young woman at the ranch. She's in labor, first child, and it's coming hard. The ranch wives are with her, but we need more hands." Eleanor grabbed her shawl. "Let me get my things." They rode double on Nathan's horse, Eleanor clinging to his waist as they galloped toward the Carson ranch. She felt the solid warmth of him, the steady rise and fall of his breathing, and found herself drawing strength from it. At the ranch, they found chaos. The young woman, Mary Carson, the rancher's daughter-in-law, had been in labor for nearly 15 hours. The doctor from town was attending another birth 20 miles away. Eleanor rolled up her sleeves and took charge. Having assisted at several births in town, she knew what needed doing. For hours, she worked alongside the ranch women, speaking soothingly to the frightened mother, applying cool cloths and giving clear instructions. Nathan remained outside with the men, but every time Eleanor emerged for fresh water or supplies, she found his eyes on her, concerned, respectful, and something else she couldn't quite name. Near dawn, a healthy baby boy arrived, squalling his indignation at the world. As Eleanor helped clean and swaddle the infant, she felt a familiar pang, the dream of her own child, now lost to time. When she finally stepped outside, exhausted but satisfied, Nathan was waiting. Without a word, he handed her a cup of coffee. "You were remarkable in there," he he said quietly. Eleanor sipped the bitter coffee gratefully. Just experience and common sense. It was more than that, Nathan insisted. You knew exactly what to do, kept everyone calm, even young Carson, who was about ready to ride for the doctor himself and leave his wife alone. The compliment warmed Eleanor more than the coffee. Thank you for bringing me here. It helped to be useful. As they rode back to her homestead in the golden light of dawn, Eleanor rested her head against Nathan's back, too tired to maintain the proper distance between them. He didn't seem to mind. They say you're too old for certain hopes, Nathan said suddenly, his voice rumbling through his back against her cheek. The town gossips, Eleanor stiffened. People always find reasons to diminish dreams they don't understand. That's not what I meant, Nathan said, slowing the horse to a walk. I meant they're wrong, dead wrong. The words hung between them as they approached her cabin. When they arrived, Nathan helped her down, his hands lingering at her waist a moment longer than necessary. Thank you for the ride, Mr. Evans, Eleanor said formally, suddenly aware of how they might appear to anyone passing by. Nathan studied her face. Back to Mr. Evans, is it? After all we've been through, Eleanor smoothed her skirt. We haven't been through anything, properly speaking. You've been kind and I appreciate it, but you're afraid of what people will say, Nathan finished for her. A respectable woman like yourself associating with a drifter. That's not it, Eleanor protested. Then what? Eleanor looked away. You'll be moving on come winter. That's what drifters do, and I'll still be here with whatever rumors we create between us. Nathan stepped closer. What if I told you I've been thinking about staying? Eleanor's heart betrayed her with a quickened beat. I'd say that decisions about your future shouldn't be made in the emotion of the moment. Eleanor, he said, the first time he'd used her given name, it sounded different in his voice, full of possibility. I've crossed 4 territories and worked more ranches than I can count. Nowhere felt right until here. And what's here that's different? She asked, barely breathing. His eyes held hers. You know the answer to that. Before she could respond, the sound of approaching horses broke the moment. Bernard Whitley and 2 of his friends appeared, slowing as they neared Eleanor's property. Well, well, Bernard called out, the spinster and the saddled tramp, isn't this cozy? Eleanor felt Nathan tense beside her. She placed a restraining hand on his arm. Good morning, Mr. Whitley. What brings you to my property? Bernard's smile didn't reach his eyes. Just passing by. Interesting to find Evans here at such an early hour. Mr. Evans kindly escorted me home after I attended Mary Carson's difficult birth last night, Eleanor explained, keeping her voice even. Her son arrived safely, thanks for asking. Bernard dismounted, his friends following suit. Always the proper lady, aren't you, Eleanor? But we all know what happens to women who live alone out here. They get desperate, take whatever attention comes their way. Nathan stepped forward. I suggest you leave, Whitley. Bernard ignored him, addressing Eleanor. My offer still stands. Sell this place to me. Go back to town where you belong. This is where I belong, Eleanor replied firmly. On my land. Bernard's expression hardened. This land should have been mine. My father had plans that didn't account for fair bidding, Nathan interrupted. Miss Summers purchased this property legally. With your money, Bernard sneered. A loan that's being repaid, Eleanor said. Now please leave. Bernard stepped closer. You know, my father controls the bank. One word from him, and any business you get from town folks dries up. Eleanor felt a cold knot form in her stomach. The threat wasn't idle, the Whitleys wielded considerable influence. That sounds remarkably like a threat, Nathan said, his hand moving to rest near his hip where Eleanor knew he carried a pistol. I don't take kindly to threats against a lady, one of Bernard's friends spoke up. We're just having a friendly conversation, Evans, no need to get worked up. Nothing friendly about it, Nathan replied. Miss Summers asked you to leave, I suggest you do so. The tension stretched like an over-tightened fiddle string. Eleanor could see Bernard calculating his odds 3 against 1, but Nathan's reputation as a skilled hand preceded him. Finally, Bernard stepped back. This isn't finished, he warned, mounting his horse. Winter's coming, Eleanor. It gets mighty lonely and dangerous out here for a woman alone. After they departed, Eleanor released a shaky breath. They won't stop. Nathan's jaw was set in a hard line. Men like that only understand one thing. Violence isn't the answer, Eleanor said. It would only make things worse. Nathan turned to her. Then what do you suggest? Eleanor thought for a moment. I need to strengthen my position, make myself too valuable for the town to turn against me. How do you plan to do that? Nathan asked. By expanding my business. The nearest dressmaker is in Helena. With the railroad coming through next year, there will be more families, more need for proper clothing. Eleanor straightened her shoulders. I just need to make it through winter. Nathan nodded slowly. Then that's what we'll do, make it through winter. His use of "we" didn't escape Eleanor's notice, but she was too exhausted to question it. Thank you for your help today, Nathan, truly. As autumn painted the prairie in russet and gold, Eleanor and Nathan fell into a comfortable rhythm. He continued working at the Carson Ranch, but spent most evenings at Eleanor's homestead, helping with repairs and preparations for winter. They shared meals and stories, carefully avoiding discussions of the future or the growing connection between them. The town watched their friendship with predictable judgment. Some, like the Carsons, approved, having seen Eleanor's capability during Mary's difficult birth. Others, led by the Whitleys, made their disapproval clear through canceled orders and whispered comments when Eleanor visited town for supplies. One crisp October evening, as they sat on Eleanor's porch watching the sunset paint the sky, Nathan broke their unspoken agreement not to discuss what was developing between them. Winter's coming, he said, echoing Bernard's ominous warning from months earlier but with an entirely different meaning. Eleanor nodded, pulling her shawl tighter. The first snow could arrive any day now. Carson offered me work through winter, Nathan said. Tending stock, repairing equipment, it's not much, but it's steady. That's good, Eleanor replied, trying to ignore the relief she felt. The Carsons are good people. They are, Nathan agreed. Mary asked if you might come for dinner next Sunday. She wants to show off little James. Eleanor smiled, thinking of the robust infant she'd helped bring into the world. I'd like that. They sat in companionable silence as the light faded from the sky, revealing the first stars. Eleanor, Nathan began, his voice different somehow, there's something I need to tell you. She turned to him, trying to read his expression in the gathering darkness. What is it? Nathan took a deep breath. I haven't been entirely truthful about my past. Eleanor felt a flicker of apprehension. Go on. I wasn't always a drifter, he said. I had a home once in Colorado. A small ranch, nothing fancy, but it was mine. Had a wife too. Eleanor's heart constricted. Had? Nathan nodded, his face solemn in the fading light. Sarah died in childbirth 4 years ago, our son with her. After that, I couldn't stay. Sold everything except what would fit in my saddlebags and started riding. I'm so sorry, Eleanor whispered, understanding his grief in a way few could. That's why you came for me the night Mary was in labor. Partly, Nathan admitted, but it was more than that. You've faced your share of sorrow too, haven't you? Eleanor looked out across the darkening land. I was engaged once when I was 20. James Harrington, he was the schoolteacher. We had plans, dreams. What happened? Nathan asked gently. Influenza took him the winter before our wedding, Eleanor said simply. After that, the years just passed. By the time I thought about starting over, everyone told me it was too late, that I was too old for certain dreams. Nathan's hand found hers in the darkness. They were wrong. Eleanor didn't pull away. Perhaps, but those dreams changed. I stopped wanting what I couldn't have and started building what I could, a life of my own, this place. Is there room in that dream for someone else? Nathan asked, his voice low. Before Eleanor could answer, a shot rang out, splintering the porch railing inches from where they sat. Nathan reacted instantly, pulling Eleanor down and covering her with his body as more shots followed. Inside, he ordered, already drawing his pistol. They crawled through the doorway as bullets thudded into the cabin walls. Once inside, Nathan moved to the window, carefully peering out. Can you see them? Eleanor asked, her heart pounding, 3 riders moving fast. But I'd recognize Whitley's paint horse anywhere, Nathan growled. Stay down. This is because of us, Eleanor said, because they see us together. Nathan checked his ammunition. This is because Bernard Whitley is a coward who can't stand losing. Stay here. Where are you going? Eleanor demanded. To make sure they don't come back, Nathan replied grimly. Eleanor grabbed his arm. No, that's exactly what they want, an excuse to come after you legally. 3 witnesses will swear you shot first. Nathan hesitated. I can't let them threaten you. And I can't let you throw your life away, Eleanor countered. Not when, she stopped. Not when what? Nathan asked, his eyes finding hers in the dim cabin. Eleanor took a steadying breath. Not when you've given me reason to hope again. Something shifted in Nathan's expression. He holstered his pistol and moved to her side, taking her hands in his. Eleanor Summers, from the moment I saw you standing alone against that whole town, I knew you were someone special, someone worth staying for. You don't know me, Eleanor protested weakly. I know enough, Nathan said. I know you're brave and stubborn and kind. I know you work from sunup to sundown without complaint. I know you helped bring a child into this world with steady hands and a calm voice while men twice your size paced in fear. Eleanor felt tears threatening. I'm 35 years old, Nathan. The town calls me a spinster past my prime. Nathan's laugh surprised her. The town is full of fools. You're the strongest, most beautiful woman I've ever known, and if you'll have me, I'd like to court you properly. Properly, Eleanor repeated, a smile tugging at her lips despite the danger they'd just faced. Yes, madam, Nathan said, suddenly formal. With the intention of making you my wife if you'll have me. The declaration hung between them as momentous as the vast Montana sky. Nathan, Eleanor began carefully, I need you to be certain I may not be able to give you children. At my age, I'm not asking for promises of children, Nathan interrupted gently. I'm asking for a chance to build a life with you, whatever that life holds. Eleanor studied his face, searching for doubt and finding none. The Whitleys won't stop, she warned. Tonight proves that. Then we'll face them together, Nathan said simply. Along with whatever else comes our way. Eleanor found herself smiling despite everything. Are you always this stubborn, Mr. Evans? Only about things that matter, Miss Summers, he replied, returning her smile. The next morning they rode into town together, determined to report the shooting to Sheriff Daniels. The main street fell silent as they passed, residents stopping to watch the unusual sight of Eleanor Summers riding beside Nathan Evans in broad daylight. The sheriff listened to their account with a troubled expression. You're certain it was Whitley and his boys? I recognized his horse, Nathan stated firmly, and he's made threats before. Sheriff Daniels sighed heavily. Threats are one thing, shooting at a woman's home is another. I'll have a word with them. Eleanor leaned forward. A word, they could have killed us. Without witnesses, it's your word against theirs, the sheriff explained, and the Whitleys have considerable influence here. So justice depends on who has more money, Nathan asked, his voice dangerous. That's not what I said, Sheriff Daniels backpedaled. Look, I'll investigate, but in the meantime, Miss Summers, maybe you should consider, if you're about to suggest I sell my property and move back to town, don't bother, Eleanor interrupted. That land is mine, legally purchased. I won't be frightened away from it. The sheriff studied her for a long moment. You've changed, Miss Summers. No, Eleanor corrected him. I've simply stopped apologizing for what I want. As they left the sheriff's office, Nathan took Eleanor's hand, unconcerned with the stares this public display attracted. You were magnificent in there. Eleanor felt a blush rise to her cheeks. I meant what I said. I won't be driven from my home. Our home, Nathan corrected quietly. If you'll have me. Eleanor looked at him, this man who had appeared in her life like an answer to a prayer she'd stopped believing in. I will, she whispered. I do. Word of their courtship spread through Willow Creek faster than a prairie fire. Some approved, others whispered behind their hands, but Eleanor found she no longer cared for their opinions. The only approval that mattered was her own. The first snow fell 3 weeks later, blanketing the land in pristine white. Eleanor and Nathan had spent those weeks strengthening the cabin, stockpiling supplies, and making plans. They agreed to wait until spring for their wedding, giving themselves time to be certain and to establish Nathan as more than a drifter in the eyes of the town. The Whitleys continued their campaign against Eleanor, but it lost momentum as more townspeople sided with the couple. Mary Carson became Eleanor's staunch supporter, bringing her influential friends to order dresses and linens. The railroad surveyors, passing through town, commissioned shirts and blankets, spreading word of Eleanor's fine work to neighboring settlements. By mid-December, Eleanor's business had never been better, and Nathan had secured a permanent position at the Carson Ranch, with the promise of foreman once the current man retired in the spring. On Christmas Eve, as they sat before the fire in Eleanor's now their cabin, Nathan presented her with a small wooden box. "It's not much," he said as Eleanor opened it to reveal a simple gold band. "I've been saving since summer. After spring, I can get you something finer." Eleanor slipped the ring onto her finger, tears blurring her vision. "It's perfect. I don't need anything finer." "There's something else," Nathan said, suddenly nervous. "Carson offered me a parcel of land 10 acres adjoining his property, said I earned it with my work this year. It has good water, pasture for a few horses, room to build." Eleanor's eyes widened. "That's wonderful. It's 5 miles from here," Nathan continued. "I thought, well, I was thinking we could build there, start fresh together. This place could become your workshop and we could have a proper home, if you want." Eleanor considered the offer. She'd fought for this homestead, made it hers through sheer determination. But the land Nathan described offered more better soil, protection from the prevailing winds, the security of neighbors. "You don't have to decide now," Nathan added quickly, seeing her hesitation. "It's just an idea." Eleanor took his hand. "It's a good idea. A place that's ours from the beginning, not mine that you moved into." Relief washed over Nathan's face. "You're sure?" "I'm sure of you," Eleanor said simply. "The rest is just details." That night, as snow fell silently outside, Eleanor lay in Nathan's arms, thinking of the journey that had brought them together. From the moment he'd intervened at the auction to this quiet Christmas Eve, their lives had woven together in ways neither could have predicted. "What are you thinking?" Nathan murmured, his voice drowsy. Eleanor smiled in the darkness. "I'm thinking about hope, how I'd almost stopped believing in it." Nathan pulled her closer. "They said you were too old for hope." "And what do you say?" Eleanor asked, though she already knew the answer. Nathan's lips found hers in a tender kiss. "You're the hope I prayed for," he whispered against her mouth. "The answer I wasn't even wise enough to seek." Spring arrived in a riot of wildflowers, painting the prairie in vibrant colors. Eleanor and Nathan were married on a perfect April day, with the Carsons standing as witnesses, and most of the town in attendance, even Bernard Whitley, who had eventually recognized the futility of his opposition. By summer, the framework of their new home stood on the Carson land, and Eleanor's business had expanded to include 2 young apprentices from town. Nathan's position as future foreman was secure, and they'd already purchased 2 mares with plans for raising horses alongside their other endeavors. On a warm evening in late August, as they sat on the porch of their nearly completed home watching the sunset, Eleanor took Nathan's hand and placed it gently on her stomach. "I thought you should know," she said softly. "The impossible seems to have happened." Nathan's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "Are you certain?" Eleanor nodded, her eyes shining. "Dr. Wells confirmed it yesterday. He says I'm healthy, though he warned there are always risks at my age." Nathan gathered her into his arms, his face a mixture of joy and concern. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." "Together," Eleanor agreed, resting her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "Who would have thought a year ago that this would be our life?" Nathan kissed the top of her head. "I did. From the moment I saw you standing your ground at that auction, I knew you were a woman worth building a life with. Even though everyone said I was too old for such dreams." Eleanor teased. Nathan's laugh rumbled through his chest. Especially then. Some people can't recognize hope when it's standing right in front of them. As the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, Eleanor thought about the journey that had brought them here from loneliness and loss to this moment of perfect contentment. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, as each day did, but they would face them side by side. "I love you, Nathan Evans," she whispered, his arms tightened around her. "And I love you, Eleanor Evans, until my dying day and beyond." In the vast Montana territory, as night fell over the land they both loved, two people who had once believed their chance for happiness had found themselves at the beginning of a new adventure, one they would share together, proving that hope has no age limit, and love finds its way to those who keep their hearts open, no matter what the world might say.